So let me tell you this. I really, from the bottom of my heart, want you to experience healthier, happier relationships. And I know it can be real frustrating out here, okay? And some of you are getting discouraged, and I really want to tell you, be encouraged, understand that great things can come your way. It can work out for you. Even when you least expect it, love can come knocking on your door. And I also acknowledge that there's a lot of men out there doing a lot of foolishness, all right? Don't get me wrong. We know that's real, but that isn't all men. And it doesn't take away from the fact that you can find the one who's a good or the right or the best fit for you. However, okay, some of y'all, might be you, maybe it's a friend, maybe it's your mother, whoever, shoot yourselves in the foot, all right? And I say that respectfully and with love. Sometimes you do things that are undercutting and undermining your ability to experience success, all right? And it's for various reasons why you may not realize this is an issue, or maybe you feel like it shouldn't be an issue, but the reality it is. And I really want to help bring more clarity to you because I don't want you to be making these mistakes. I want you to make sure you can at least say, you know what? I did my part. I was what I needed to be. And if that allows you to see that this guy isn't for you, great. But then it will allow you to then nurture the relationship with the guy who is for you. So there are several things that men hate that a lot of women do in the early stages of dating. And I'm going to break it all down. So let's get to the first one. And the first thing is acting too nonchalant. So let's start with this angle. As a woman, some of y'all can attest to how annoying it is to have to deal with an overly nonchalant man. All right? Acting like he doesn't care, trying to play it too cool, and therefore sometimes that also reflects in a lack of effort or the effort not being where you want it to be. And therefore it makes you feel like this man is not serious. He's just playing games. Now, I understand as women, many of you feel like, well, the man is the pursuer. Some of y'all may even go as far as saying the man should be chasing. You know, well, you may not know, but I don't believe in anyone chasing. I believe in two people making a mutual effort, but that's a different video. The bottom line is you may view it as, well, naturally, he's supposed to do a little bit more than me. But the reality is that, especially in today's world, where we have to understand there's been so much damage done to individuals, damage even done to men, disappointing relationships, disappointing dating experiences that cause everyone to be a little more cautious to some degree. Not everyone, but the vast majority. And he needs to see some things from you too. And so those same issues you may have with an overly nonchalant man, men have with overly nonchalant women. Now, I have to mention this real quick before I forget. This becomes even more true depending on how desirable the man is. And what I mean by that is, if he's just, because let's be real, let's just cut the BS, right? Some of y'all will go on a date with a guy who you don't view him as very desirable, but you're like, he seems nice. I'll give him a chance. Or you know what, my mother or friend told me, give him an opportunity. So, okay, fine. Nothing else is happening for me right now. So let's just see what happens. And if he's that kind of guy, if he's the guy that isn't the most desirable, then he's going to be more tolerant of you being nonchalant, of you playing hard to get, of you holding back. Because if we're being real, he's viewing it as, I can't believe I even have this opportunity with this woman. I got to go hard. I got to try everything I can to win her over. Now, let me make this clear. This is not a healthy dynamic. By no means, because some of y'all might be thinking, well, that sounds good to me. It's not good. It's not good. And it will end in disaster in the majority of cases, right? But he is going to be a little bit more tolerant. However, if the guy is a very desirable man, and realistically, he has options, he has other women that want to date him, he's top notch, so to speak, he's going to have much less patience for you being too nonchalant. All right? Because his experience is going to be filled with more examples of women being willing to be more expressive, show interest, show desire, all these things, make him feel wanted. So if you don't give that same energy, unless he just views you as over the top amazing, and you may feel like, well, that's how he should view me. But again, he just met you. He don't know you like that yet. So in the early stages, that feeling may not have fully developed or be grasped just yet in most situations. Okay, again, unless it's a true, genuine connection, that's a whole different story. But the bottom line is, for that guy, he's going to be less tolerant of it. So the bottom line is that as a woman, you've got to be mindful. And you have to ask yourself, why am I being so nonchalant? If that applies to you. Because for some of you, that nonchalant energy, that nonchalant spirit is due to a defense mechanism. It's you having your walls up. It's you trying to quote unquote protect yourself. And your mindset is, he needs to show me that he is worthy of me bringing these walls down and pouring more into him, right? On the other side, some of you are nonchalant because, going back to the example I gave, you really don't like him like that. Like you're just not really into him, and you're kind of just pushing yourself along to give him a chance. And that to me is both of those examples are issue. They both speak to something that needs to be addressed. However, the one that you're just not into him, I feel like that's not really fixable. It's just, you're just with the wrong guy. You need to accept that, move on to someone that you can actually be into. And for the one where you're scared, you have walls up, you've got to heal so you can bring those walls down, because the same walls you have up to protect you are the same walls blocking your blessings. When your walls are up, you don't allow your ability to truly give love or receive love. That wall is blockage, and it's going to cause more problems than you may realize. So I encourage you to get the healing you need so that you can remove that and understand that you need to be more open. And I know for some of you who might be saying, hell no, nah, because when I was open and less nonchalant and more expressive, I got taken advantage of, or it wasn't appreciated, or all these things. That outcome was just proof that that man was wrong for you. It's not proof that being more open and showing desire is the wrong way to do it. That's the right way to do it. And by doing it that way, you will expose a lot quicker if someone is truly for you or not. Because what happens is, you keep holding back in every experience, and you end up holding back from the right one who needs to see that from you. You end up self-sabotaging yourself. But instead, if you give it and you see that someone cannot step up to the plate, they cannot pour back into you, then we know he ain't for you. But the guy who is serious about you is going to be so happy, feel so good about his experience with you, and will be willing to pour back into you. And now we know we can move forward into something more serious. All right, so now here's another thing that men hate that women do in the early stages of dating, and that's get too many other people involved in the dating process, okay? So what I mean is this. I think it's pretty self-explanatory, but essentially, sometimes a woman has a tendency, she meets a man, she's excited about the situation, and in trying to get assistance with navigating things, she starts to talk to multiple different people about what's going on, trying to get their input, right? And at first, it may seem harmless. And initially, it may not be causing any problems. However, one, as a woman, you have to be mindful, because now you're opening the door to multiple voices that can cause now confusion for you, who can start giving you too many different opinions to where it starts to create conflict within you. As well as you have to be mindful of, where are these people speaking from? Meaning, are they speaking from hurt? Because there's a lot of people that get the advice of other bitter, hurt women. For example, I had a client one time, and she was dating this guy, and things seemed to be going great. And I think one day he didn't call her that day. Something happened. She didn't hear from him. So she goes talking to her multiple friends and family. And one, oh, he was just using you. You need to drop him right away. Mind you, the situation has been great. The man's been doing everything he's supposed to do, but this one day happens, right? And immediately people start interjecting their negative perceptions. Oh, it's this. Oh, he's cheating. He's seeing another woman. It's all this stuff. It causes her to react. She ends up jumping the gun, leaving a message, cursing them out. Like it just goes completely left. And the whole time, forgive me because I did forget the specific detail, but what I can tell you is his not calling that date, there was an actual reasonable explanation. All right. And what happens is now the whole situation got derailed because she invited too many other people into this situation. Now, listen, let me also mention this because what I've said this is about what the men hate. One of the reasons why men hate this is because we, as a man, we already have to potentially deal with whatever past you've been through, right? And we have to navigate showing you our best and showing you that we're serious while not trying to trigger you or, hopefully nothing from your past is thrown onto us. But then when you add other people who have their own past issues that they haven't resolved, dumping negatively onto you, it's like, dang, so we got to fight this battle against all these different factors. That makes it so much more difficult. Not to mention that now, rather than us having a conversation and we coming to an understanding or conclusion, you start to bring these perceptions and start to project things and start to make assumptions without allowing us to discuss it. And then by the time we do discuss it, you have a harder time grasping what I said because you're still listening to what the other people had to tell you. Okay? Now, don't get me wrong. I do think a woman, a man, whoever, should try to have someone, we'll say like an accountability partner. I think it's good to have a third party that can help you when you're a little confused, need a second opinion, all these things. But you do have to make sure this is someone who can speak without bias, someone that can speak from a positive place, not a negative place, someone that can encourage you to take the right steps or the healthy steps on how we address issues, resolve things, who is willing to also put the mirror in front of your face and say, hey, maybe this was you that could have done something better in this situation. If you have a healthy friend or family member like that, okay, cool. But I think one is enough. You don't want to start piling on a bunch of different people. Because again, it's not just about how it affects him, it's how it affects you. Okay? And I've seen a lot of people shoot themselves in the foot because of that dynamic. You know what I'm saying? And they just got too caught up in all this outside noise. And to me, outside of that one friend or family member, it's praying, it's talking to God, it's letting God guide you in those moments, which that really is the final answer, the biggest advisor that you should be having. Even if you sit and watch this video, any of my videos, read my books. Some of y'all, you'll know, if you read my books, I always say, just don't take my advice. Take it, go to God in prayer, and then see what applies to you, and then move forward. You know what I'm saying? That would be the best way. So even if you do get caught up in hearing multiple people's voices, because I think it's human nature. Sometimes we get antsy and we want to hear different opinions. You just want to make sure you end that search for guidance with praying about it. And then you allow that to guide you on how to move forward. All right, so let's keep this going. And another thing that men hate that women do in the early stages of dating is acting entitled. And for some, never offering to pay. Now, let me start with the never offering to pay, all right? And let me be very specific and clear with this. So one, if you don't know already, I'm someone who doesn't, how I personally, and I want to stress that, how I personally live my life and what I personally believe in is I'm not asking a woman to pay for anything. Even when I was broke, to be honest with you, I never looked for a woman to pay for something. I never looked to take money from a woman. I just don't believe in that, right? And I believe in men being protectors, providers, all these things. However, I acknowledge that not everyone shares that same mindset, right? There are a lot of men who do agree with that, who do live their life that way. There are some men who a little bit more lenient. There's some men who flat out believe, no, the woman should be contributing. Now, when I say never offering to pay, what I mean, and I won't say that a lot of men hate it, right? I do think that when you don't as a woman, it could raise an eyebrow. It could make him question what your intentions are. But the key word is offer. So what I mean is there's going to be times where you go on a date with a man, let's say it's date number 5, I don't know, whatever. You offer. And certain types of men like myself, we're going to tell you, no, you're good. You ain't got to pay it. Now, I think a great thing for women to then do is say, well, let me get the tip, right? Now, again, some of us might still say no, right? But it's the fact that you're offering. That's it. It's just the gesture of it. It's showing that you are willing to contribute, or you're not just here to just take, okay? And I've had situations where I've gone on dates with women that literally did offer. And not even offer in a way of, and because that's the other thing. I don't want you offering with the energy or spirit of, I can take care of myself. I don't need, that's not what we're on. It's more so offering it in the sense of, I appreciate you taking me out. I appreciate spending this time with you. It's a loving thing. It's not a defensive thing. And I can say personally, I've experienced where women have done it out of a loving gesture. And I always appreciate it. I never let them pay, but I always appreciated it. You know what I'm saying? And so I think in today's world where a lot of men are sensitive, and even though I always make a joke about how some of them are sensitive about you taking their money that they don't even have. Like, they could be broke and they still worried about women taking their money. But that's how serious the issue is for a lot of guys, that there's just this idea that women are just hyper-focused on money. And so you being willing to offer is a beautiful thing. Now, please don't offer if you ain't actually willing to do it, because I don't want y'all watching this video offering some man thinking he gonna be like Stephan or some of these other guys and not let you pay. Some of them are gonna say, go ahead and pay it. So if you offer, you have to be prepared to actually follow through with that, right? But I do think that for a lot of men who are genuine and serious about being with you, just the offer speaks loudly. Now, let me just give a side note, and then we're going to speak a little bit more about being entitled. I think in general, even if you don't offer to pay, you want to find ways to show appreciation, okay? And I think that's what's important. I think just, if for example, if let's say you were at a lounge with a man, right? And you guys were at a table and you had to go to the bar to get some drinks. Even saying, hey, let me go get the drinks for you. And I don't know if that's a great example. It's just the one that popped in my head. I'm just trying to think of something, just thinking of ways that you can be accommodating, right? Can also speak loudly. It doesn't necessarily have to just be a money thing. But for a lot of guys, money is a big thing. Now, in general, when it comes to acting entitled, this is something that a lot of men do hate. I can tell you, even me personally, I don't like it either. I am a very generous, willing to give kind of guy. But if I feel like you have this entitled attitude and a very unappreciative attitude, I won't want to give you even $1. Like, that's how I'll give so much, but if you act a certain kind of way, I don't want to give anything. And I know a lot of men feel the exact same way, and even more negatively about it. And so some of the ladies out there, it reminds me of, I don't want to speak on her, so let me leave that alone. There was a video on, whatever, we're going to leave that alone. The bottom line is there's a lot of women who the mentality is, well, he's supposed to do that. And I'm the prize, so you're supposed to do X, Y, Z. And they don't realize that that mentality puts them in an energy or spirit that is very entitled, that blocks them from showing appreciation, okay? And it comes off very arrogant as well. And a guy who's trying to be serious with you, that's going to be a big turnoff. Now, he might still try to sleep with you. He might try to keep you around for those reasons, but his willingness to view you as a potential wife and someone that he wants to spend his life with is, is going to take a huge hit, if not be completely eliminated, by you coming across very entitled. So you want to be mindful of that. And remember, I think the key is always show appreciation, because that eliminates that issue from arising. All right, so before we continue, real quick, I want you to get your copy of the book, How to Get a Man to Cherish You. Now listen, don't be triggered by the title, all right? I know some people don't like the title. Trust me, if you read the book, you'll understand and you will love it. Go click the link below in the description or in the comment section, or you can go to becherishedbyhim.com. All right. So now, the next thing that men hate, that women do in the early stages of dating, is switching up on them when it comes to intimacy. Now, hear me out. Let's get out the way. We know for those who are believers that the goal is, or the standard is, waiting till marriage. But I always say, I understand and acknowledge most don't make it that far. Most will not make it that far. This is not to say what's right or wrong. This is simply to speak to that reality, right? And acknowledge the fact that things go down. And ain't nobody judging, because I have fallen short. Many of us have. It happens. So with that in mind, when I say switching up on him when it comes to intimacy, I'll give a quick story as an example to start. I remember one guy, he had reached out to me, and he was so pissed off. And I was like, what happened? So he's like, listen, he was dating this woman, and she happened to be a pastor, okay? And they go on a date. Now, I can't remember if it was the first date or the second date, but I think she started off not really saying anything about intimacy. By at the latest, the second date, they slept together, okay? After the second date, she goes to him and says, you know what, going forward, I want us to take intimacy out of it and just talk to each other. And that pissed him off. Now, hear me out. This is not to say a woman does not have the right or should not feel like she can't say, hey, though we went down this road before already, I realize this is not the right way for me to do things, and I want to pump the brakes on that. If it happens to you in that sense, you should do that. And you should feel comfortable doing that. And if he doesn't respect it, that's on him. However, I do want to highlight the fact that some women, it may not apply to you, but some women have done this as a manipulating type of tool. Meaning, I'm going to give him a taste. And after I give him a taste, I'm going to pull it back. So the taste will be to keep his interest and to keep him here. But now I'm no longer going to give it to him. And sometimes a man can sense when it's a game you're playing. And when it feels like a game you're playing, and sometimes he may not be sensing it accurately, but he may be perceiving it as such. And when it comes across like a game you're playing, that will piss off a lot of men, all right? It's like, do not play that game. If you know you're trying to stick to a standard of waiting, let's do that. Now, again, I understand this is not talking about the woman who has that standard. Y'all generally slip up, and now you're trying to do what you feel is the right thing and pull it back. That's understandable. But you still want to be mindful of trying to avoid letting that happen when you know deep inside that is not what you're trying to consistently keep up with. All right. And so I think it's very important that when we are not trying to cross lines of intimacy in the dating process, that we create boundaries that stop us from going too far. This is where doing dates during the daytime is very good. Agreeing to not be alone in someone's house at all. I was going to say past a certain time, but probably at all. Is probably good. At least until you're at that, if you reach a point where you feel like you want to cross that line as an adult, that is your choice. But you want to make sure that while you're trying to uphold that standard, you create necessary boundaries so that at least he knows what he is signing up for. And if he signs up for it, cool. But what happens in a lot of situations that add to the whole switch, because switching up on intimacy isn't just laying in the bed with him, sleeping with him. It can even be like a lot of kissing and touching and all these things. And now, okay, no, we're not doing that at all either. Even that can be very frustrating and very confusing to the man, to a lot of men. And so at least if he knows this is what we're on as far as we're not doing things and he wants to move forward with you, cool. But when you're not conveying that, when you're not establishing boundaries, and you're allowing this man who may not be in that same mindset of not pursuing things intimately, you're not giving him any clear indication to understand that this is not what you're trying to do, then he's going to proceed thinking it's all good. And then again, if it happens and now you pull back, it seems like this came out of nowhere, and that's where it seems like it's fake. Whereas if you were being real about it from up front, that's different. Now, I know because I'm already hearing it from some of y'all. I can hear y'all talk sometimes, even from over here. Some of y'all saying, well, okay, so are we supposed to be announcing our abstinence from the jump, right? No, I don't think so. Here's the thing. I believe you don't have to announce these things right off the bat. I do think you do have to make sure you mention it in the natural flow of conversation. For the vast majority of situations, there is some type of discussion of intimacy before intimacy actually happens. In that discussion, it should be mentioned, hey, I'm not trying to go that far, okay? Or if it by chance there was never a discussion, but now we find ourselves in that moment, that of course is a great time to let it be known, okay? But we don't want to not say it when the opportunity presents itself to say it, and now try to bring it up. That just makes it difficult. But again, if you've made that mistake, of course, don't be afraid to now say it and stand your ground. It's just understand how this can play out and how this can create frustration for a lot of guys. All right, so one of the things that men hate that women do in the early stages of dating, and let me just say right now, this will probably not apply to many of you, but I have to discuss this and I'll explain why in a second. And what they hate that some women do, a lot of women are doing today, is asking for money or help with the bills, okay? So listen, some of y'all might be like, that's crazy. What kind of woman's asking that? Well, believe it or not, it happens. It happens a lot more than you may realize. Shoot, some of your friends or family might be doing it, but they're just not telling you about it. But many men have had experiences where in the early stages of dating that individual, sometimes in the first conversation, the woman is already bringing up asking for money, or she may not be directly asking for her bills to be paid or help with them, but she'll start with like he'll say, how's your day? It's been rough. I got this light bill. I don't know how to pay it. She starts dropping these heavy hits, and a lot of men already know what that's about, and they're like, oh my gosh, and now, he's put in a position where like, if he doesn't help, then somehow he's this weak man or whatever the case may be, and that's just ridiculous. But there's a lot of women who do that, and the reason why I needed to talk about this, even though chances are many of you don't do it, or here's the reality. Some of you who do it have done it because you're not serious about the guy. So the same way a lot of men are quick to rush into intimacy and make everything about intimacy with a woman, many times that's because he's not really serious about the woman. He's just trying to gain that benefit. Well, for a lot of women, it's the same thing. She's not really serious about the guy. She just wants the benefit of how he can assist her. And typically that's a financial level of assistance. But I think it's important for those of you who do or don't do it to know and understand this is happening often, because this goes back to my earlier point about men being very protective, or even the word paranoid might be good to use when it comes to the issue of money with women, all right? Because they are dealing with these experiences that you may not be fully aware of. And a lot of men are being used for their money. To even go further than that, some of you may not be aware or not believe that there's a lot of women that will go out with men, not because they're interested, but because they want a free meal or because they're bored. And I hear so many women say, oh, that's ridiculous. Women don't do that. You really have to stop saying women don't do that because you haven't heard it, all right? Or because your friends haven't told you. Again, let me tell you something. Some of your friends or family aren't going to tell you everything that they do, especially if they know you would look at them differently if they acknowledged that or admitted that to you, okay? And regardless, maybe it's not happening in your friend or family group, but that doesn't mean it doesn't happen a lot outside of that. And so there's a lot of different scenarios like this and a lot of experiences where men are being used and played. And I feel the need to mention this. This is one of the reasons, and I'm not validating this, I'm explaining this. This is one of the reasons why men put a very strong focus on intimacy happening quickly, because intimacy is their way of assuring themselves you are actually attracted to them and genuinely have interest in them. Because again, they've gone out with women 3, 4, 5 times for months. Intimacy never happening. And it wasn't because she just wanted to wait or she was trying to honor God or whatever the case may be. It was because she was playing him. And the whole time finding out that she's having intimacy with other men. There are tons of men who've had that experience. So now it puts them in a position where they feel like, okay, I need this reciprocation in intimacy, or I need this to happen, so at least I know this is something real. Again, not validating. I'm not saying that's a healthy thing. I'm saying this is what's happening in a lot of situations. So all that to say, yes, as a woman, know that that is something that happens to men. Know that this is what contributes to a lot of the issues. But ultimately, know that when two people are serious about each other, if they're willing to sit down, communicate, be open, be transparent with each other, then they can find resolution. They can overcome these little obstacles and they can build a healthy, happy, and amazing relationship. Thank you for watching this video. I pray it was helpful to you. Be sure to watch this one over here on 5 things every woman needs to know about men. Now, let's be real. Everyone is capable of being not that great, especially in the wrong situation. And I think that a lot of the